This is the time of year when winter seems to move the most slowly. The world outside is still, wrapped in frost, the banks of the river thick with ice. There's a certain kind of peace in the cold, a quiet invitation to slow down and savor the season. The river in winter moves slowly, its steady current a quiet reminder that time moves forward, sometimes slowly and meandering, and at times hurried and frenzied. Winter encourages us to move slow, to settle into the rhythm of shorter days and longer nights. Baking sourdough mirrors this rhythm. Sourdough moves slow. It's not quick or hurried. Sourdough makes you use your senses, your sense of touch to feel the consistency of the dough, and if it's where it needs to be, your sight to check the rise, your sense of smell and taste to check the level of sourness. Here I am making sourdough bagels. I prepped the dough the night before and did a bulk ferment and left it on top of the fridge overnight. This is the best spot in my kitchen for proofing dough that doesn't need to bulk ferment in the fridge. I will be sharing the recipe this next week on my blog and on this channel, so keep an eye out for that. In a season that feels so long and makes you slow down, there is something comforting about taking the time to make real, nutritious, comforting food. Learning new recipes and experimenting in the kitchen is one of my favorite things to do year-round, but especially during the slow, cold days of winter. Well, good morning. At least it's morning while I'm recording this. I don't know what time of the day you're watching, but good morning. So this is actually my second take because I realized after the first one that the microphone wasn't on. So what you missed is that I had just prepped a little loaf of sourdough bread and stuck it in the oven. So that's in there baking. I'm making 2 mini loaves of whole wheat sourdough, and you will get to watch me prep the second one and put it in the oven. And then a little bit later, I'm going to make some soup. And I'm very excited about this soup. It's very simple, but I think it's going to be absolutely delicious and go really well with some sourdough bread. So anyway, we are expected to get some snow in the middle of the night tonight, which I'm very excited about, but I'm also cautiously optimistic because there have been plenty of times this winter where they have said we're going to get snow and it either didn't snow or we got rain. So I will believe it when I see it. But that being said, the conditions are actually optimal for snow to actually come. So temperatures are going to stay well below freezing and the moisture will be coming in. So, but yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. But I am very excited for the possibility. As I've mentioned in some previous videos, it's been a very weird winter, and usually we would have a lot of snow on the ground right now, and we don't. So anyway, it's a very cold day today, and we might get some snow, so I'm gonna make some soup. So yeah, let's get this loaf baked, and then I will show you guys the second loaf. Okay, the first loaf is done, so I'm gonna get the second loaf into the oven. And I'm trying a little bit new of a camera angle, so we'll see how this works. That's one thing with filming and having a very small kitchen and not having, you know, a counter where I can put the camera on the other side of the counter so you guys can watch me cook. So we just have to make do with what we have. And right now, this is my humble, sweet little kitchen. And so I thought I'd play around with some camera angles, and I don't know, hopefully we'll come up with some good camera angles that'll work better. But anyway, all right, let's get the second loaf into the oven. And because my little pan is kind of it's a longer shape, I have to kind of shape the loaf gently, very gently, so it's more of an oval shape. And I'm not going to do anything fancy with this scoring. I'm just going to go right down the middle and leave it at that. I have in the past had a lot more fun with scoring. You can get really creative with it, and it's really fun. There's a lot of actual like Instagram accounts, Pinterest, YouTube. You can find all sorts of fun accounts that show you how to do really fancy scoring. But today I'm keeping it very simple. So, okay, I've got my little pan here. And I've shown this pan before on the channel. And as I said before, I found it at an antique store. And all the tag said was that it was a antique or vintage roasting pan from Europe. And the owner of the store did not know what it was originally used for. But best guess is it's just a roasting pan. So, yeah, but I fell in love with it because it was so unique. And I use it for my sourdough, and it works perfectly to make little mini loaves. So, okay, I'm gonna get this in the oven. And I hear Miss Lucy waking up from her morning nap. So we'll get this in the oven, get her situated, and I'll show you the finished loaf. so now I'm going to make this white bean soup with shallots and garlic and rosemary. And I have the washing machine going, and I think the microphone will block out most of it. So hopefully you don't hear it too much. But anyway, so to start, I am going to dice up very finely. So I guess mince. I'm going to mince up some shallots. And I have, let's see, I have 5 shallots here. And so I'm just going to dice these up or mince them up very finely. And I'm going to set some of them aside, and some of them are going to go in the pot to be sauteed. So okay, so here I have 1 shallot diced up, and I am going to put it in this little bowl here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick pickle on this. And this is going to be used as the garnish for the soup. So you don't need to have a lot of the shallot, just 1 shallot, finely minced. And I'm going to use some rice vinegar here. It's just, I currently don't have any white vinegar. So I'm just going to cover these with a little bit of vinegar. Whatever vinegar you have is fine. And this will just do a quick pickle on these while I am cooking the rest of the soup. Okay, so now I've got the shallots all minced up, and I'm going to get some oil heating in my pan. Just a couple tablespoons of avocado oil. And I'm going to get that warming up. And so I'm going to get the shallots sauteing in the pan. And while they're sauteing, I'm going to chop up my garlic. And also, I have some fresh rosemary here. I've mentioned in a previous video, my rosemary plant is still alive. And I love fresh rosemary. So I don't know if I'm going to use all of it, but I am for sure going to remove the little, I don't know what you'd call them, the little leaves. I don't know if they're called leaves or not, but anyways, I'm going to remove the rosemary from the stem and chop it up very finely. And yeah, so let me get the shallots into the pot and get them sauteing. And I am completely making a mess here of shallots. Oh well. Okay. All right. So those are getting, there's already a piece of rosemary in there. Okay, so these are going to do a quick saute, maybe only like 4 or 5 minutes. Keep the temp fairly low. You don't want it to burn. And so now I'm going to mince up some garlic, and I have 4 cloves of garlic here. And I will add it to the shallots. So the shallots are starting to turn translucent, but they are not browning. For this, I don't want them to brown at all. I want the flavor to stay fairly delicate. So just until they're starting to turn translucent. And then I'm going to add the garlic in. Oops. Throw in the garlic. Start stirring that immediately, and the garlic is going to start smelling absolutely delicious very quickly. And just like with the shallots, you do not want the garlic to brown or burn. Real quick, chop up some of the rosemary. And actually, I don't think I'm going to add the rosemary at this point. I think what I'm going to do is add the broth, because I also don't want the rosemary to burn either. I just want it to flavor and fragrance the soup. So let me go ahead and get the water in there. All right, so to the pot, I am going to add in 6 cups of water. Now, if you had chicken broth or vegetable broth, homemade or canned or whatever, you could go ahead and add 6 cups of that. I currently don't have any homemade, so I'm going to do 6 cups of water. And because I don't have any homemade chicken broth, I'm going to use this Better Than Bouillon soup base. And this is the chicken one. And I find that if you don't have homemade broth, this is one of the better soup bases that you can get. So I'm going to bring this up to a simmer and let that bouillon dissolve in there. And then before I started, I had 3 cans of white beans. Now this is a mix. I thought I had all navy beans, but I had some butter beans and some navy beans. So this is a mix of butter beans and navy beans. So you can use all butter beans or you can use all navy beans, but I would suggest using a white bean. Don't use a black bean or kidney bean or anything like that. So whatever kind of white bean that you would like. And so there's 3 cans of that. I rinsed them, drained them, got them nice and washed off. And then when this comes to a simmer, I'm going to add the beans to it. And I think I'm going to go ahead and add the rosemary now, so it starts seasoning the broth. And let's see, is that enough? I think I'm going to do just a little bit more. So this is about, I want to say 2 teaspoons of chopped fresh rosemary. You of course can use dried if you would like. So get the rosemary in there. Okay, so the broth is to a simmer now, so I'm going to add in the beans. And I'm just going to throw them in. Okay, and I'm just going to let this simmer. And I'm actually going to let it simmer with the lid off. And I'm going to let this simmer for about 10 minutes on low. And I'm also going to check and see if it needs any salt. I'm also going to add some pepper. Okay, so now that this has simmered for a few minutes and warmed up the beans, I am going to use the immersion blender. And now I do not want to puree this completely. I want there to still be whole beans in it. So I'm just going to do a very quick little puree of this, just so it thickens a little bit. So check it. Okay, that's it. That's all I'm gonna do. And that will just help the soup to thicken a little bit as well. I'm gonna get this back on the heat and let it simmer for another 15-20 minutes, and then we will serve it up. Okay, so let's go ahead and taste the soup. And I've got my sourdough bread here. I'm going to make sure to get a little bit of the quick pickle shallot in the first bite. That is really good. I'm very happy with that. Having that little bit of pickled shallot in there, like that fresh crunch, really the little bit of acidity just really brightens it up. And of course the beans are delightfully soft, but not too soft. A little hint of rosemary in there. So good. I definitely recommend this soup. So let me know if you give it a try and let me know what you think. The recipe will be available on my blog over at homespunannie.com, and I will also have it linked in the description box below. So yeah, give it a try.